my name is Steve Johnstone and welcome to Referral Mastery. Before we get into the course itself, I should probably just introduce myself to you. As I'm sure you can tell already, I am a South African, and I'm not even a South African living in the States. I am a South African living in South Africa. I live in Cape Town. I'm an eXp team leader in South Africa. I was, I think, the second or third agent to join eXp in South Africa when we launched here a few years ago. And in that time, by the grace of God, I've built a really big revenue share group. Well, by South African standards, it's pretty big. We've got close to 900 agents in my group out of the 1,200 agents that have joined eXp South Africa. And it's been a remarkable, amazing journey for which I'm very, very grateful to eXp for. Now, Glenn Sanford and I got discussing my background, and I am a real estate trainer by profession. I've actually never sold a house. I had to get a real estate license in order to join eXp. What I've done for 20 odd years is I've been a real estate trainer. And I want to tell you that story because it's relevant to the course that we're going to be doing together. So 20 odd years ago, I met a man named Tom Gay. Tom was the ex-chief executive of a company called Providence Systems in America. And Tom was now based in South Africa, having taken over the Providence Foundation. When he retired as chief exec, he took over the company's foundation, and they were supporting certain charitable work and ministries here in South Africa. I met Tom through a friend of mine who was involved in one of the ministries they were involved with, and when we had coffee together, Tom was asking me about my background. I said I was in corporate training at the time. I was kind of in my mid to late 20s at the time. And Tom said, hey, well, I want to introduce you to the guy that runs Providence in America, the guy that owns it. Maybe there's a chance that we can kind of do something together. So before I knew it, I was on a plane, I headed over to America, and I met Brian Buffini for the first time. And Brian was amazing as a gracious host for me, and he got me started in the whole real estate training business because I spent some time with Providence in America. Brian's business, by the way, was called Providence Systems back in the day. It's now called Buffini & Company. And if you're looking for a good podcast, I would suggest you get onto Brian Buffini's It's a Good Life podcast. That's what I listen to exclusively in my car, and it has been a huge blessing to me in my own life. So get onto Brian's It's a Good Life podcast. So Brian had me over to the States. I came back to South Africa with a whole bunch of resources and video cassettes and of all the training. And I think I watched those video tapes, those VHS tapes. It shows you how old I am. And I think I stretched them by how much I watched them because I dissected Brian's system to the minutiae and I rebuilt it for the South African market, and I started a real estate training business here. And then, by the grace of God, over the next 7 years, we built South Africa's biggest real estate training company, biggest one-on-one coaching business in South Africa. I trained tens and tens of thousands of agents, and we've coached hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of agents one-on-one through our one-on-one coaching program. And of course, Brian has coached through his organization in the States. I think it's millions of agents that have coached one-on-one using the system that I am going to teach you, a form of that system in this course today. So I want to give Brian the credit. Thank you, Brian Buffini. You made a huge difference in my life, and we give you the credit for some of the principles and techniques which have built this course here. Now, before we get into our time together, there's a few points I want to make just to kind of get you going. You should have a workbook if you are watching this online. Look below the video. Somewhere there'll be a button or a link to click to download the workbook. If you want to go through it as I'm teaching, you can fill in the missing words as we go. And there are a few points that I want to make in advance before we get going. First of all, what you're going to learn here is 100% predictable. We know that it works. I think you can tell already from my background in real estate training, this is not my first rodeo. We've done this a number of times. We've done it with a lot of people, and we absolutely know that the system works. It's 100% predictable. Now, that's good news because you don't have to be sitting there scratching your head thinking, man, I wonder if this thing's going to work. Is this some theory, or it's not a theory, it's practice. We know it works. So that should give you comfort. The second thing I want to say is that it takes a lot of work. Yes, on the one hand, it's 100% predictable. If you implement the system, it will more than likely make you a millionaire if you're consistent with it. However, on the other side, it's going to require a lot of work. I think a lot of people in life are looking for a get-rich-quick scheme, or they're looking for some quick technique that you can click a button and the whole thing happens automatically. Unfortunately, that is not going to happen here. Why? Because working by referral means building relationships with an unusually large group of people. people. It's earning the trust of a disproportionately big group of people. Now, as you're going to see, it's about 100 to 300 people we're talking about. Ideally, you want a database of 300 people you're going to be keeping in touch with. But that's a lot more than the average human being keeps in touch with on a regular basis, certainly in some kind of disciplined fashion. So in order for you to build trust and ongoing relationships with that kind of group of people, it is going to require a lot of work. There's a lot of notes you're going to write. There's a lot of phone calls you're going to make. There's a lot of little face-to-face visits you're going to be doing. And it's not just once or twice. You're going to do this on a consistent basis, week after week after week after week, month after month after month after month. And as you keep up the consistency of the disciplines, that's what produces such staggering results with the system. So, unfortunately, I will say to you, it is the minority of agents that do this training that end up actually implementing the system. Not because it's difficult, not because you don't understand it, just because it's a lot of work. Are you willing to do the work? Only you can answer that question. The next thing I want to say is that what you're going to learn will require getting out of your comfort zone. You are going to have to get out of your comfort zone. For example, there are scripts and dialogues that I'm going to teach you. Now, in order for you to use a script or a dialogue, the very nature of the case is that you're going to be out of your comfort zone because these are things you're not naturally saying. And so you're going to wrestle with this thing. Man, I don't say that. That's not how I would talk. Well, it doesn't matter. Just trust the system. Use the dialogues as we have them. You're going to have to get out of your comfort zone. You're going to have to make a lot of phone calls, maybe more phone calls than you're used to making. You're going to have to go and see people. Maybe there's some tech issues which you're not comfortable with tech. You're scared of technology. You don't know how to send a bulk email, whatever. It's not super complicated stuff, but there is some technology we're going to be using. Some tracking software, for example. You're going to need to start tracking who you're contacting and how many times you've contacted people and how many calls you've made each day and how many pop-bys you've done each month. You're going to need to track these things. So I can tell you now, 100% guaranteed, whether it's here or there, some part of the system is going to get you out of your comfort zone. But that is good, my friends. How do we grow in life? How do you get better in life? How do you make more money in business? By getting out of your comfort zone and growing and getting to the next level. Well, I'm going to help you do that if you are willing to go on the journey with me. Next one, what you're going to learn takes time to start working consistently. Kind of made this point already, but in our research, we've seen that if someone is super disciplined with our system, it takes 6 to 12 months before they even start seeing results. So you're making the calls, you're using the dialogues, you're doing all the stuff I'm teaching you, and it's just flatline, flatline, flatline. And then between 6 and 12 months, there is this boom, exponential explosion in our clients' businesses if they keep up the disciplines. Okay, so it takes time. Then you will need to watch this course more than once. Every 3 months is best. This is one of those things I'm just going to have to ask you to trust me on. We've done this with enough people through the years to know you don't hear this the first time you do it. You don't even hear it the 5th time you do it. I can't tell you the number of times we've had coaching clients who used to come to our live events for free around the country. They would come every 3 months, every 3 months, every 3 months they'd come back. And people that we were on our coaching program for a year, 2 years, 3 years would say to me, man, you know, that's like the 5th time I've attended this seminar and I heard things today that I've never heard before. You put in new material. Didn't you develop a whole bunch of new material there? No, it was the same seminar every single time. You just hear things differently when you're a little bit down the road of implementation. You hear it differently because you've got some experience and now you're ready for the next piece. So my strong suggestion to you is put a reminder, put something in your calendar that says to you, watch this course again and watch it every 3 months. I promise you it will pay dividends. And then the last point I want to make, and this is by way of encouragement to you, is that anyone can do this. You know, there may be certain other strategies like social media marketing strategies, for example, that a lot of agents will say, you know, I just can't do that. I just don't have the knowledge, the ability to do that kind of stuff with technology. I just can't do it. Well, the good news with this system is that anyone can do it. I don't care if this is your first day in real estate and you're 18 years old, or you've been in the business 30 years and you're heading towards your 60s or 70s maybe, you can do this. Why? Because working by referral at its very heart is about loving people. It's about serving people and earning trust with a few little systems and disciplines around that. That's the heart of working by referral. And if your heart is right, you can do this. Okay, let's talk about real estate itself. What do you think the most important thing you do each day is? I've got this line in your workbook that says, as a real estate agent, your most important activity is. Well, how would you finish that sentence? Because I'm going to suggest to you that as a real estate agent, the most important activity you do is generating leads. Generating leads. Lead generation is the most important skill, the most important activity in your business. If you don't have leads, you don't have a business. Yes, client service is important. I'm not saying don't do that. But you don't have any clients if you don't have any leads. And the same argument could be made of every other possible activity in your real estate business. Lead generation is the heart of it. What we see in many, many real estate agents' lives is inconsistency of income. Have you struggled with that in the past? Or maybe you have a couple of deals that close and you get paid and you're on top of the world and cash gets put into your account, but then you've got another 3 or 4 months where, man, there's nothing in the pipeline and you can't get any leads and there's no deals. Notice that all of a sudden you get a couple of leads and then, oh, you managed to close another couple of deals. This is how we see estate agents live all over the world. Inconsistency. And the reason their income is inconsistent is because their lead generation is inconsistent. Now, one of the reasons for that is when agents wake up one morning and they realize, you know what, there's nothing in the pipeline, I have got nothing going on, I am desperate, I've got bills to pay, you know, the car payment doesn't take a break, the house payment doesn't take a break, the food bill doesn't take a break, the electricity, the medical aid, all that stuff has to get paid every month. They don't have this inconsistency in their business, but I've got it in my business. I'm in terrible state, what do I need to do? So what agents do when they're feeling the pressure and the stress of this all is they start what I call stirring up the dust. It's not intelligent, it's not an effective form of generating leads, it's terrible quality leads, it's cold calling, it's stuffing direct mail into people's post boxes and mailboxes and hoping that they'll get a hold of you. It's maybe putting some adverts on, maybe some social media ads, posting stuff on, hoping someone will contact you. All of these things are sporadic and people hate doing them. Do you like making cold calls? Do you like knocking on people's doors to generate leads? Maybe if you're in your area, you're knocking on doors and you're getting to know the neighborhood, that's fine. But if when you're in crisis as a business and you need business and you knock on people's doors to, please let me value your house, you know, nobody enjoys doing that stuff. And so they do it until they've generated a few leads and then they stop. And then they work with these clients. I am going to get you a house, Mr. Buyer. I'm going to show you 50 things. If you get in my car again, I'm going to show you. This is what they do. They ride the leads that they get and then manage to close a deal. You know, it takes 2-3 months to close that deal. And then 2-3 months time, they wake up the next morning and they realize, oh my word, there's nothing in the pipeline. I'm desperate. And it's the same thing over and over again. Okay, the point I'm making with all of that is that whatever lead generating you do, it has to be done consistently. And then the next point I'm going to get to in your workbook is it needs to produce high quality leads because not all leads are created equal. Isn't that true? You know that seller that you've been trying to sell their house for 6 months and you know it's overpriced? Forget about that seller, walk away, go get more leads. You know that buyer that you've put in your car for 3 weeks in a row, you've shown him 25 homes and he can never quite make up his mind, is never quite right. You know that guy? Walk away, go get more leads. You know, the reason most estate agents spend time with the wrong people is because they don't have anybody else to spend time with. They've got these 1 or 2 leads and those are the ones that are going to make them money. The answer is, my friends, to give yourself options. And the way you give yourself options in real estate is by generating lots of leads and preferably lots of high quality leads. That's the answer. You've got to solve the lead generation crisis in your business. Okay, so if not all leads are created equal, as we said earlier, and you do agree with that surely, have you done any cold calling in the past? Have you ever done any cold calling? Or have you ever done any kind of door knocking in order to get leads? Well, when you knock on someone's door for the first time and they don't recognize you, how do they treat you? Would you say they welcome you in and they cut you a slice of cake and they They thank you for the wonderful opportunity they have to meet you, that you might value their property. No, probably not. And cold calling is the same. If somebody calls you off a direct mail, piece of direct mail, or if somebody maybe responds to a social media post, they fill in a form and click the button. Often when you phone someone who's filled in an online form, you're expecting them to know who you are. They've watched your little video or they've read your thing on your Facebook post, and you phone them and they have no idea who you are and they have no idea why you're phoning. And then you have to explain to them, you filled in a form on Facebook, and they, oh, did I? Like, there are poor quality leads. Now compare that with, have you ever got a lead through a past client, let's say, someone who you had a great experience with them, they love dealing with you, they told their best friend about you, and that best friend gave you a call and said, my friend Mary said that I should use you. Have you ever had a referred lead before? Was that a lot better than the others? Well, all the studies show that you will close a far higher percentage of referred leads. Those clients are far more likely to take your advice on pricing, so you won't have to wrangle up front. And then as the deal is negotiated through the process, they're far more likely to tuck in behind you and let you lead the way and take your counsel through the process because they trust you. The trust has already been brokered before you've even met them by the nice things that their friend told them. So I want to suggest to you that the best type of lead is a referral. Hands down. That is the type of lead we're going after. So if you're going to implement a system to generate leads in your business, why not implement a system that generates referrals as the type of lead? Let's go after referrals. That's the point. This is borne out by some research that was done by the NAR a few years back, where they did a whole bunch of research on where sellers are finding their agent. Well, a certain percentage of sellers, they find their agent through a referral. Now, what percentage do you think that would be? Like, out of 100 sellers, how many of those spoke to someone they knew and that person said, no, use Stephen, he's good, and then they phoned Stephen? What percentage? Well, quite staggeringly, the percentage is 42%. This is what the NAR found. Close to half of every listing coming on the market in the country, close to half of them, the seller chose the agent because they were referred to that agent by someone else. That is quite staggering, but it doesn't stop there. A further percentage used the agent they previously worked with. Get the point here. When we are building relationships with people in our sphere of influence and we're starting to earn their trust so that they'll refer us to friends, it's the same job that we're doing that will get them themselves to use us when they are doing a property transaction. So our friend Mary that we're building this relationship with over time and using certain dialogues and these different touch types which we're going to be using in our system, it's getting her to the point where, man, she's primed to give you referrals. Anytime she hears about leads, she immediately thinks of you and she passes them on to you. But when Mary herself goes about buying or selling property, she will also contact you. So repeat business is not to be overlooked. Well, 24% of sellers use the agent they previously worked with. 24. Now, if you add those two numbers together, 42% by referral, 24% by repeat, you've got 66%, a full 2/3 of every home going on the market in the United States. The seller is choosing their agent through a relationship. That is quite staggering. Now that should open your eyes to, why am I spending so much time trying to get social media going? Why am I spending so much time with big public marketing efforts? I'm not saying those things are wrong. They can be supplementary. My conviction, and it's been borne out with tens of thousands of people we've worked with, is that your primary focus should be on building relationships. Because you can build a massive business with just a group of, as we're going to see, 100 to 300 advocates, as we call them, people who trust you. Okay, so let's talk about working by referral, because there are some misconceptions around this. And the first one is probably the most important aha moment that I want you to have in this session, is that most people generate referrals passively. What does passively mean? It means we kind of sit back and we wait for it to happen. And the reason most people generate referrals passively is because most people think that the only way of getting referrals is by word of mouth. Word of mouth. You know, word of mouth. You do a great job for a client, and then you go back to the office and you think, man, I went above and beyond. Like, I delivered things to them. I got stuff fixed at the property that I didn't have to do. I did an amazing job with these people. Surely they are going to refer me to someone and my phone's going to start ringing. If I do this with enough people, my reputation is going to get out there and my phone will start ringing. That's word of mouth. That is the primary misconception when it comes to working by referral. Referrals must be generated proactively, and that is done by having a system. Now, the systems are completely antithetical to word of mouth. Systems are saying, no, we've done a great job with these clients, but now we have a keep in touch strategy that we're going to be working with consistently in our business that is going to now go back and go back and go back and go back and build an ongoing relationship with those people. There's certain dialogues we're going to be using with them. There's certain material they're going to be sent on an ongoing basis so that when they know someone is thinking of buying or selling, the first thing on their mind will be, I need to let Stephen know. There is a whole system behind getting referrals proactively, and you'll get 10 times the number of referrals if you have a system as opposed to just doing great work and waiting for the phone to ring. Okay, what do systems do? Systems ensure consistency. Consistency. And this is the very thing that our system is designed to help you get. Consistent, high quality leads. Those two things. And this is what the system will do. Okay, what does the system look like? I'm going to give you an overview of it in this session, and then in our next session we're going to actually begin talking through the Trusted Advisor program, as we call it. And this diagram of an apple tree and an apple farmer represents the entire referral system that I'm going to teach you. So what I'm going to do is put the headings in on the apple tree. You can fill this in. I would suggest, by the way, that even if you're not using the rest of the workbooks just to fill in the missing words, do print out this apple tree and keep this apple tree on hand as you're watching these videos, because slowly over the many sessions we're going to be doing together, one by one, you're going to be filling in the parts of the system on the apple tree. At the end of the day, you're going to have one place where the whole system is represented to you visually, and you will understand it because you've done the training with me. So keep your apple tree up to date. Well, the very exciting news about this all is that we are going into the apple business. And of course, apples in our case represent not just leads. We're not trying to just generate any leads. As I've been saying to you, the two apples are repeat leads and referred leads. So repeats and referrals. Those are the two apples that our whole system is designed to cultivate. Now, if you want apples, what do you by necessity have to have? Apple trees. I'm not being silly, I'm trying to make a point to you. Because apples come from apple trees, right? Where do repeat and referred leads come from? Who gives you, or what gives you, repeats and referrals? Well, the most obvious answer to that at its most basic level is people. People give you repeat business, they use you repeatedly. People give you referrals. Okay, so this apple tree represents a group of people. We're going to use the technical term in our system to refer to that as a database. A database. Don't you love how South Africans say the word database? I need to learn to say database. Okay, so we've got a database of people that we're going to be keeping in touch with, and they are going to give us a steady stream of repeat and referred business. That's the idea here. Now, if you want a healthy apple tree, you're going to have to give that apple tree a number of things to sustain it so that it'll flourish. On the one hand, and this is on the left-hand side of your apple tree diagram, we're going to need sunshine. That apple tree needs sunshine. On the other side, it needs rainfall. The combination of sunshine and rainfall, if that apple tree is in good soil, is going to produce good fruit. So what is the sunshine? Well, that's going to correspond to written communication. Written communication. And this is assuming a certain principle, which I'm assuming is obvious, that if you want to build relationships with this group of people called your database, you are going to need to communicate with that database on an ongoing basis. Now, there's different types of communication. The sunshine represents written communication. We're going to send these people stuff. Now, of course, it is not enough just to send people stuff. That doesn't just build relationships. You can't just send people a newsletter once a month, for example, or an email, and expect them to love you and trust you and invite you to Christmas dinner. We need to combine written communication with something else, and that's going to be the rainfall. What do you think that's going to be? Well, we need to combine written communication we're sending with personal contact, and that's what the rainfall represents there, is personal contact. Okay, one of the major jobs that I have is to teach you a proven formula, a routine of certain written communication tools combined with certain personal contact follow-up tools that together create this incredible environment for referrals to come to you. So I'm going to teach you a system of communication, a keep in touch system, if you will, that combines different types of touches that you're going to have with your advocates, the people that are going to be on your database. All right, once you've got apples in the apple tree, you've done your written communication, your personal contacts all working well, your apple tree's wonderful, people are learning to love and trust you and they want to refer people to you. There's apples hanging in the apple tree, they're there for you. You have to climb up your little ladder and go and get those apples. Now the same is true of repeat and referral business or leads. It's that whole thing about proactivity that I was talking to you earlier. If you just do a good job and wait, you're waiting for the apples to just fall off on their own. You have to be able to climb up your little ladder and go and get those leads. Now, how do we do that? Well, the primary tool we're going to use for that is dialogues. There are certain strategic dialogues that I'm going to be teaching you that are very predictable. They are very successful if you use them. If you will trust me enough to learn them off by heart, if you're doing them over the phone, you can print them out and use them while you're on the phone. They produce phenomenal results. So I'm going to be teaching you 6 different scripts and dialogues that you can use to go and get the apples out of the apple tree. Then when you've harvested your apples, you've got your leads, you need to obviously provide exceptional service to those leads, which is what the fragile container is, because no one's going to refer you if you do a bad job with your clients. Now that is a fantastic overview of our referral system. The apple tree as you've seen it here. We've got a database of people we're keeping in touch with. We are using a combination of written communication and personal contact to communicate with these people on an ongoing basis. We are using certain dialogues when we have contact with them that predictably then generate repeat and referral business. Once we've harvested those leads, we provide exceptional service to those leads. And each of those pieces of the puzzle, I'm going to spend time in this course teaching you through. And just understand, I'm not going to be teaching you a bunch of disparate, disconnected techniques. I'm teaching you one holistic system. You must do it all together for the system to work. Okay, before we close this first session, I just want to talk to you about the potential of all this. What could you possibly do if you built what we call critical mass with 100 to 300 advocates? You know, how profitable can this really be? I mean, is it not better to just build this massive YouTube channel or social media thing, or just do huge amounts of leaflet drops every week, just cover blanket geographic farming our area? You know, are those traditional methods not better than what you're teaching here? How much could you really get from just like 100 people? Well, let's take that as a minimum. Let's say you're going to work not with 300 advocates, which is what I think you should be going for. Let's say you just start with 100 people, and you build what we call critical mass with those 100 people. What is critical mass? Well, it is a marketing phenomenon which the kind of branding community use to call when a certain product gets associated with the whole industry that product is in. So it's a certain brand, there's other brands in that product, but the whole industry is just known as this brand name. So can you think of an example of a company that has got critical mass in their space? Well, it used to be, Again, I'm showing my age. You didn't vacuum a floor. You hoovered a floor. Hoover was just one type of vacuum cleaner, but it got known as, just ubiquitously known as, associated with the industry. In our own day, Google is probably the best example. You don't do an internet search. There are other search browsers, by the way. Yeah, I know you didn't know about them. But you just Google something. Well, what we want to do is help you develop critical mass in your business, which means in this 100 people that we're going to talk about now, that when they hear the word property, house, home, buy, sell, real estate, they think of you. Involuntarily, they think of you and they pass those leads on to you. That's what the system is designed to do. Now, if you can get critical mass with 100 people, let's do the maths on it. A Gallup poll, you know the Gallup organization, it's not a thing you do on a horse, it's an organization that does statistical surveys and studies. A Gallup poll showed that the average person knows 285 people. 285 people in the sense of these are people they have regular enough contact with that they could influence them as far as a buying decision is concerned. They would, oh yeah, are you thinking of buying a new car? You must deal with the guy that I dealt with. So how many people could we influence in that kind of way? Well, Gallup says 285. Well, if the average person knows 285 and you build critical mass with just 100 advocates, how many people does that give you access to through your 100? Okay, if they each know 285, that gives you access to 28,500 people. Now, if the average person moves or sells their home every 5 years, I've heard 3, I've heard 7, I'm just going to go with 5 because it makes the maths a bit easier. If the average person moves every 5 years, you get access to 5,700 transactions that you can be referred into every year. I hope that gets your attention. Oh, we've got this little system where you're just building relationships with 100 people. With 100 people that you've got relationships with, you get access to 5,700 transactions a year. How many of those do you need to make you happy? I mean, if you were to get just 10% of those, so 1 out of every 10, what that would be 570. Look, that's probably, you're not even going to do that. Let's take 1%. If you got just 1 out of 100 of each of those leads, you would do 57 deals a year. How does that sound? Well, I hope all of this is a good introduction to you for the Referral Mastery course. Welcome, enjoy it. Put your comments below, and I look forward to going on the journey with you. In our next session, we are going to start talking about the database. How do you begin this whole process of implementing the system? By organizing your database, and that's what we're going to get into on our next session. And in fact, that'll take up a few sessions as we get your database really in order before we start having that regular communication with them. So God bless you, and I'll see you in the next session.